G'day guys, and welcome to Pure Property Investment One-on-One. Today I'm here with Aaron Christie-David. Aaron is the Director of Atelier Wealth. What we wanted to discuss today, Aaron, if you don't mind, is probably talking a little bit more about I'll call it the hidden threshold of property investors getting to one or two properties and maxing out or tapping out or not being able to access finance, or for whatever reason not getting past that two investment property position. And there's some pretty staggering statistics that show that that is kind of where the majority of investors get to. I was hoping you might be able to share a bit of insights as to why and how people or investors probably get to that limit and don't go any further.
Yeah, sure. We're in a fairly fortunate position where we get to sit in front of investors and what are you doing and what's the plan for the longer term? And most people say they want to build a portfolio, which is great, but then they hit the wall. ATO statistics will show that there's 2 million investors, property investors in Australia. So of that 2 million, 75% or 750,000 will have a investment property, which is great. They've taken some action.
Yep.
The numbers start to drop off. So if we get to people that own 3 investment properties, that's about 119,000, which is about 6%. Then alarmingly, you get to the top 1%, which own 6 or more investment properties, which is about 19,000 Australian investors. And
it's amazing, isn't it, how much that drops off?
It is.
To each level.
That's right. And then we start to unpack, I guess, why some people have done very well. I guess the top 1%ers, what have they done well compared to the other, say, 99% of the market? And some people genuinely don't want to build a large portfolio like that, which is fine. Get into the market and you've achieved what you wanted to, which is great. I guess what I see is from some people, they don't have a strategy. So that classic saying, know what you own and why you own it, becomes more pertinent as you're growing your portfolio as well. Another one is they have a limiting mindset. So they get scared by the amount of debt they're taking on as well. And again, it's good debt versus bad debt. This is all deductible debt, and you're buying a property which really should be growing from a capital growth point of view as well.
Correct.
The next part is having a team around them that really encourages and supports them. So if you treat investing in property like a business, you really want the team of professionals around you. So you want the accountant, you want the buyer's agent, you want the broker, you want the financial planner, insurance specialist, depreciation as well. So you start to see that everyone has their role to play in helping you achieve your goals as well. And the next part really is around who they're surrounding themselves with. Find an investor who's tread the path that you want to. I mean, some people will take advice from friends or family who haven't bought an investment property. And I say, well, what have they done? And they're getting inside your head a little bit as well, and that may pull you back, which is unfortunate as well, because that's their circle of influence. And I think if we tip that on its head and say, what are our best investors doing? They know their numbers inside out, and if they don't know their own numbers, they'll call one of us to get those numbers straight away. So, what's my yield? What's my capital growth? What's my property valued at now, for example? And they're really pushing the boundaries to maybe grow it or even just optimize their own portfolio as well, which is great. And they have a very clear strategy, which we can't stress enough from the beginning. So they know what they want to do, and it's almost that relentless pursuit of achieving their goals that really puts them in that top, anywhere from 5 to 10% of investment property experts in Australia as well, which are dream clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, mate, I think that the key there is that there's a lot of water that goes under the bridge for those investors who have probably, and again, going back to probably unpack it this way, saying just because there's only 19,000 investors who own 6 or more properties doesn't mean that everyone should be aspiring to that. It's not necessarily to say that 19,000 people are doing better than everyone else, because there might be people who out there who don't need anything more and they've already hit their objectives and hit their strategy. However, statistics will show that the majority of these people who are buying one property and don't get any further do want to buy another property, but they don't know how, when or why. And that what that comes down to is ultimately the right advice, the right team, the right structures.
And most importantly, the property itself. So there's no point getting into the market if that property you've bought is going to restrict your ability in the future, because that's, I guess, ultimately detrimental to scaling your portfolio, even just having a successful investment property in itself.
Absolutely. And I think I actually wrote an article probably about 6 months ago about the rise and rise of people buying themselves out of the market. And it really comes down to buying without a strategy or buying without an objective is quite possibly the worst thing you can do. We talk about taking action, how important it is, but taking action when it's eventually jumping off a cliff without understanding if there's water below you or dirt, you wouldn't do it. And you really want to make sure with potentially the biggest financial decision you're going to make, you really want to know a little bit more about why you're doing it, how it's going to happen, or potentially getting the advice to say this is how, why and when. And I think that key part that you mentioned is the circle of concern versus the circle of influence is such a key part when it comes down to property investors. And I could tell you that I don't know any successful property investor with 3, 4, 5, 50 properties or more who doesn't have a team of people, whether they be people they pay or just peers who are also in the game, and they take advice from people who've done it before and learned and made mistakes and learned how to make sure they do it better. Make sure you're teaming yourself up with the people who know, rather than people who have an opinion for the sake of opinion's sake.
That's right.
And Australia's full of them, unfortunately, when it comes down to the property space, and it's one of our birthrights, but doesn't mean that we're...
Great investors are willing to share their experience. They actually want to share. They jump on forums maybe, or you read investor magazines, or even speak to experts, and we can introduce our own clients to our other clients and say, ask them how they've done it, and they will be happy to share their secrets.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time when you unpack it, it's not that complicated. But the best investors, they're usually pretty diligent. They're pretty strict in what they do and how they do it. And vast majority of the time, they're not too complicated either. They're pretty much saying, here's what I buy, here's why I buy it. They don't look for the best deal ever and try to do some sort of multi-high-rise development in their first, second or third purchase. They're pretty much going to be a slow and steady approach and build up their wealth. That's going to be incrementally, and it's going to be pragmatic. Guys, there's a lot we talked about there. And again, I think there's also probably a lot more we could talk about in that forum. But the best way forward from that, if you do want to talk about anything further or anything that resonates with yourself, feel free to contact Aaron at the details below, and you can contact us at our office anytime on our contact number below as well, and we'll no doubt catch up with you soon. Cheers.